notice how buying something feels weirdly good when there's cash back involved? Like you're standing there, finger hovering over the buy now button, and your brain does that little mental gymnastics routine. Well, it's basically on sale. I'm getting 5% back. I'd be losing money if I didn't use the card. And somehow, magically, the purchase feels smarter, safer, even responsible. I've been there more times than I'd like to admit. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and the tiny little tricks our brains play on us when we think we're being clever with credit cards. Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people never slow down enough to notice. Cashback isn't always a reward. Sometimes it's bait. And once you see the trap, really see it, you start to notice how often that free money feeling quietly nudges people into spending more, carrying balances longer, and honestly just drifting further away from the financial freedom they thought they were moving toward. So if you've ever felt weirdly proud of a cashback reward, if you've ever justified a purchase because of points, or if your credit card somehow always feels a little more expensive than it should, yeah, this conversation might change the way you look at that shiny little percentage forever. The psychological hook nobody talks about. Here's the thing most financial advice skips over. Cashback doesn't work because of math, it works because of psychology. Your brain is wired to love rewards, especially small, immediate ones. It's the same reason loyalty cards work, why video games give you little achievement badges, why that tiny ding notification hits your brain like a mini celebration. Cashback cards are basically engineered dopamine machines. You spend $100, you get $2 back, and your brain goes, nice, winning. But if you zoom out just slightly, something interesting starts to happen, because studies have shown that people tend to spend 12 to 18% more when using credit cards compared to cash. Not because they're reckless, not because they're bad with money, but because the pain of paying gets softened. When you hand over cash, your brain feels the loss immediately. When you swipe a card, especially one promising rewards, that pain gets delayed and diluted. And honestly, I've caught myself doing this. Standing in a store, holding something I absolutely did not plan to buy, and that little voice goes, well, I am getting cash back. That's the hook. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Why it matters? If cash back makes you spend even slightly more than you normally would, the reward can quietly cancel itself out. Actionable takeaway? Next time you feel the urge to justify a purchase because of rewards, pause and ask one simple question. Would I still buy this if there were 0 points involved? If the answer is no, your brain might be getting played. Section 2. The math that quietly works against you. Okay, this is where things get expensive, because the real cashback trap doesn't fully snap shut until interest enters the chat. Picture this, you earn $300 in cash back over the year. Feels great, but at some point, maybe during the holidays, maybe during the tight month, you carry a balance, just for a little while, no big deal. Except credit card interest doesn't mess around. At 20 to 25% APR, which is extremely common, even a modest carried balance can wipe out your entire year of rewards faster than you think. I once did the math on a friend's card. He was proud of earning about $250 in cash back that year, but he'd paid over $900 in interest. That's not rewards, that's reverse investing. Why it matters? Rewards only work if you never carry a balance. Not sometimes, not most months, always. Actionable takeaway? If you've ever paid credit card interest in the past 12 months, your first priority isn't maximizing rewards. It's eliminating interest completely, because interest eats cash back for breakfast. Category games and the spending creep. Now, we get into one of the sneakier traps. Rotating categories, bonus categories. 5% on dining this quarter. Sounds harmless, but watch what happens in real life.
Suddenly, you order takeout a little more often. You choose the slightly more expensive restaurant. You rationalize convenience purchases. You shift spending to maximize rewards. It's subtle, it feels strategic, it even feels smart. But zoom out and ask, did your total spending go down or did it quietly drift up? Because optimizing rewards can sometimes turn into optimizing excuses. And look, I'm not saying bonus categories are evil. Used intentionally, they can absolutely work in your favor, but used emotionally, they become spending permission slips. Why it matters? Reward structures can reshape behavior without you noticing. Actionable takeaway? Before chasing a bonus category, set a fixed monthly spending cap for that category. Rewards should follow your plan, not rewrite it. Section 5, the identity trap. This one's sneaky. It took me way too long to notice. At some point, rewards stop being about money and start becoming part of your identity. You become the points optimizer, the travel hacker, the I never pay full price person. And look, there's nothing wrong with being financially savvy, but sometimes the game becomes the goal. You know what I mean? Spending shifts from I need this to I can earn rewards on this. And that tiny mental flip is where things get dangerous, because now the purchase itself gets emotionally justified by the reward system. I've seen people buy things months earlier than needed, upgrade purchases unnecessarily, even shift entire spending habits, all in the name of optimizing points. And honestly, I've caught myself doing the same more than once. Why it matters? When rewards become part of your identity, objectivity starts to slip. Actionable takeaway? Once a quarter, review your biggest purchases and ask, was this driven by need or by rewards excitement? Brutal question. Very revealing. When cashback actually works, because it can. Now, and this is important, cashback itself isn't the villain. Used correctly, it's genuinely useful. The people who win with rewards tend to follow a few quiet rules. They spend exactly what they would have spent anyway. They pay the full balance every single month. They don't chase categories emotionally, and they treat rewards as a bonus, not a strategy. In other words, their behavior stays boring, and boring is powerful. Because the moment spending patterns start changing because of rewards, the math usually starts drifting the wrong way. I personally still use cashback cards, but very differently than I used to. No category chasing, no emotional swiping, no mental gymnastics, just quiet, predictable usage. And honestly, that's when rewards finally started working the way they were supposed to. Not through hacks, not through optimization spreadsheets, just through awareness. And honestly, that's the upgrade most people never realized they needed. If there's one thing I hope sticks with you after this conversation, it's this. Cashback is not automatically free money. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and the difference usually comes down to behavior, not the percentage printed on the card, because the real trap was never the rewards themselves, it was the tiny psychological shifts they create. The slightly easier swipe, the slightly bigger purchase, the slightly more relaxed attitude towards spending. Individually, harmless, but over months, over years, those tiny shifts compound quietly in the background, shaping financial outcomes in ways most people never fully connect back to that innocent-looking 2% back. And honestly, you don't have to cancel your cards. You don't have to swear off rewards forever. That's not the point. The goal is awareness. It's noticing when the reward is guiding the decision instead of simply rewarding it. It's catching that little voice that says, well, I am getting cash back, and just pausing long enough to ask, is this actually saving me money or just making the spending feel smarter? Because once you start asking that question consistently, honestly, something interesting happens. Your purchases get calmer, your spending gets more intentional, and your money starts staying where it's supposed to stay. And the funny thing is, that's usually when cashback finally starts working in your favor instead of quietly working against you. Not through hacks, not through optimization spreadsheets, just through awareness. And honestly, that's the upgrade most people never realized they needed.